Sarah, you have said that you became so sort of defensive of Marcia Clark.
A lot of the stuff about Marcia Clark makes me very angry, you know, but it's also, I was guilty of it myself, and I've said this too, that, you know, I was 19 when the whole thing happened, and I was decidedly self-interested and was wanting to be an actress and was not focused on the case in the way that some people were, and certainly not on changing my opinion or whatever the narrative about Marcia Clark was. I was sort of letting myself believe what was being told to me by the media. I didn't question it. I didn't, you know, ask myself any bigger questions. So now when I look back at it, I just sort of wonder where everybody was, where all the women were, why people weren't rallying around her, and why she didn't have a support system from other women, sort of saying, why are we talking about how short her skirt is and her bad hair? And her no makeupness, if that's a way of saying something. You know, she said that some of the court reporters would run after her after a day and just with some concealer and say, just please, just put a little. And she was just like, I do not care about that. There's a man I believe to be guilty. I would like to see justice done. I really don't want to have to concern myself with my appearance. But because she resisted that, she just became a person who somehow was like a punching bag.
I think it would be wise to limit the number of African-American women on your jury. You might also consider softening your appearance. Skirts instead of business suits.
Are there roles that you guys won't play or things that you absolutely will not do? Sort of lines you won't cross? Sounds like you have a line you will not cross.
I mean, obviously, I don't. No, I don't. I've done a lot of crazy shit on that show. Breastfed a 35-year-old. I, you know, had 2 heads. You know, I think there's really nowhere you sort of go, I will not do that. I think I've done that. I will not breastfeed under 37. No.
I draw the line.
35, yes.
What has been the most sort of overtly sexist things you guys have experienced?
I've never been asked to play the leading lady without having to be a blonde instantly. Like if I've met on it or auditioned a million times as a brunette. I don't mind it. I like the blonde, but to be told that in order to be considered a romantic lady opposite some hunky guy, that I needed to have long blonde hair that looked a very specific kind of, you know, LA, Real Housewives looking thing that was always asked of me. Always. So, I mean, until I landed on American Horror Story where I didn't have to and then I had two heads, and so it didn't matter one because I was able to let both things exist. But that's
really interesting.
Yeah. And it does do something to your brain where you sort of go, gosh, so the way I came into the world is not as appealing as it would be if I were altered in some way. That's a sort of funny message to extend to a person.
At what point did you realize that you were receiving that message?
It's funny, I don't think until I got far enough out of it where I realized that that had been happening so much.
Wow.
And I have been, you know, also in a different kind of world where the more sort of equal everybody is, the better. There isn't a real disparity between men and women on our show.
What was your first splurge, your big purchase when you landed your first sort of breakout role?
I bought a lot of stuff at the Gap. It was really, I was still living at home and I was understudying Amy Ryan on Broadway in The Sisters Rosenzweig, and my check was substantial for, I mean, I had never had a job before, ever, anywhere. I was a waitress for 2 seconds and I couldn't spell Parmesan, and so I quit promptly. I had like a panic about it. And it didn't even occur to me that I could abbreviate like Parm. It was a bad, really bad moment. And yeah, so I got a big check, weekly check, understudying, and I went to the Gap.
Went nuts.
Like on the daily. Like every day. Like, yes, and I give Gap presents to all my friends.
That's fantastic.
That was really what I did.
I love
that, and it was some flaming Dr. Pepper drinks down on 11th Street and 3rd Avenue, I think.
That's great.
And I was buying. That was my big splurge. I should have gotten a car. That would have been better.
That's where you went wrong, clearly.
The Gap.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more videos from The Hollywood Reporter. What was your first splurge, your big purchase when you landed your first breakout role?
I want to know what your first big splurge was.